Hi, my name is Mathew Kiang, and I'm a graduate student at the Harvard School of Public Health. On behalf of my co-authors, Drs. Monica Alexander and Magli Barberi at UC Berkeley, I'm excited to introduce our new paper. In this paper, we systematically describe the trends in opioid mortality rates separately for white and black Americans from 1979 to 2015. To do this, we use joint point regression, which allows us to estimate both how quickly the mortality rates are increasing or decreasing, and also the year in which these increases or decreases may have changed. We find three different waves of the opioid epidemic. From 1979 to about the mid-1990s, the opioid epidemic affected both black and white Americans equally. It was driven by heroin and growing at approximately 10% per year. Then in the mid-1990s, things started to change. The opioid mortality rate in the black population stayed flat. Meanwhile, the rate in the white population continued to increase. However, it shifted from being primarily driven by heroin to being driven by prescription opioids such as morphine. This pattern continued until about 2010, and from 2010 until now, the prescription opioid mortality rate has remained relatively flat. Meanwhile, the overall opioid mortality rate continues to increase, now in both the black and white populations. Our results indicate this epidemic acceleration is being driven by heroin and synthetic opioids such as fentanyl. The heroin mortality rate is currently increasing around 30% per year in both populations, and the synthetic opioid mortality rate is increasing around 80% per year in the white population, or doubling every year in the black population. Before discussing implications, I want to highlight some limitations. First, our model does not account for underreporting or misclassification of opioid deaths. Second, a common synthetic opioid, fentanyl, requires a specific toxicology test. Because of this, synthetic opioid deaths are likely to be underreported, and at least some of the increase we observe in the more recent years is due to greater awareness and detection by medical examiners, and not necessarily broader use of fentanyl. Despite these limitations, we believe our results have three important implications. First, contrary to the popular narrative, the opioid epidemic is affecting a large portion of the overall population and not just white Americans. Second, the driver of the epidemic has shifted over time. In response, our policies and interventions to address this must also shift. In other words, the supply-side interventions of the past must be combined with new interventions focused on lowering demand, reducing harm, and better treating addiction. Thirdly, we need to improve the surveillance of the illicit drug market in order to better understand the purity, potency, availability, and cost of these deadly opioids. All reproducible code for our paper is available online. Thank you for your interest. We hope it provides a useful starting point for future research and understanding the social and economic causes of the opioid epidemic.